All right, everyone, welcome. Let's think of this session less like a lecture and more like the moment we sharpen all the tools we've been building this semester. We've spent weeks assembling some of the most powerful quantitative tools in business, and today we're going to see exactly how they click together to form one high-impact toolkit that you can literally use for the rest of your career.
So, let's start with a big question. One I'm pretty sure has crossed your minds at some point. Is all this math just another hurdle you have to jump over to get your degree? I want to challenge that perspective today. My goal here is that by the time we're done, you'll see these concepts not as obstacles, but as your secret weapon, the thing that gives you a real, decisive edge when you walk into any business meeting.
So, welcome to your final review. Today is all about application. We are going to transform those abstract formulas you've seen in the textbook into what I like to call the manager's toolkit. We're going to take 4 core mathematical ideas: differentiation, marginal analysis, optimization, and integration, and weave them into a single powerful strategy for making incredibly smart, data-driven decisions. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about the language of business change. Then, we'll use that to make decisions at the margin. From there, we'll figure out how to find our peak performance. And finally, we'll zoom out to see the grand total. You can see how it builds, right? We're starting small with one tiny decision and building all the way up to the complete strategic picture. Okay, first up, the language of business change. Think about it. Everything in business, from your revenue to your costs, is always moving, always changing. Differentiation is the language we use to precisely describe that change at one specific moment in time. It's the spark, the starting point for all of our analysis. Now, to keep this from getting too abstract, we're going to ground everything in a simple, tangible scenario. Let's imagine you've just launched a new artisanal coffee cart. You've got your costs, the beans, the milk, the cups, your time, and you've got your revenue from every single coffee you sell. This little cart is going to be our business laboratory for today. So what in the world is differentiation? Well, the textbook definition is the process of finding the instantaneous rate of change. But let's make that real. Imagine a graph of your total profit throughout the day. It's not just a straight line, right? It's a curve. The derivative is the tool that lets you find the exact steepness, the slope, of that curve at any single point. It's like freezing time and asking, right now, this very second, how fast is my profit growing? And that, right there, is its power in business. For our coffee cart, the derivative of our profit function tells us our marginal profit. It answers that one critical question: if I go ahead and sell just one more cup of coffee, exactly how much more profit will that single cup bring in? Notice we're not talking about the average profit. We're talking about the profit from the very next one.
So knowing the rate of change is interesting, but its real power comes when we use it to make a decision. And that brings us to section 2. We're going to use this information to answer the most fundamental question in business. Should we produce one more? This is what we call marginal analysis. This right here is one of the most important rules in all of microeconomics and honestly in all of business. As a manager, you should always keep doing something, in our case, selling coffee, as long as the revenue you get from the next one, your marginal revenue, is greater than or equal to what it costs to make that next one, your marginal cost. The second that flips, the second it costs you more to make the coffee than you earn from it, you stop. And guess how we find those marginal values? That's right, by taking the derivative of our revenue and cost functions. See, it all connects.
Now, I really want to pause here, because this is the single biggest trap that people fall into. They get stuck in average thinking. They'll look at their spreadsheet and say, hey, my average profit per cup is still $5, let's keep going. That is a huge mistake. Your average profit across 200 cups might be great, but the cost of making that 201st cup could be higher than its revenue. Maybe your staff goes into overtime. The smart decision maker always thinks at the margin. You stop at the exact point where the profit from the next cup hits 0. That's your sweet spot. Okay, so now we know the rule for when to stop, but that brings up an even bigger question. We don't just want to avoid losing money, we want to find the point of maximum possible profit. And that leads us perfectly into our third section, finding your peak performance through optimization. This is the million-dollar question for any manager, right? What's the absolute top of the profit mountain? Is it selling 150 coffees, 200, 250? We can't just guess. We need a reliable, systematic way to find the exact number that will generate the single greatest profit we can possibly make. And lucky for us, calculus gives us that exact system. It's a 4-step process. Step 1,
Find the derivative of the profit function. We already know that's our marginal profit. Step 2, and this is the magic trick. Set that derivative equal to 0. Now, why 0? Well, think about it. When you're standing on the very peak of a mountain, the ground beneath your feet is perfectly flat for just an instant. A flat slope is a slope of 0. So by setting the derivative to 0, we're mathematically finding that flat spot at the very top of our profit curve. Step 3, we solve that simple equation for x, which is our number of coffees. And finally, step 4, we do a quick check with something called the second derivative test, just to make sure we found the top of the mountain and not the bottom of a valley.
So let's pretend we run all the numbers for our little coffee cart. We create our profit function, we take the derivative, we set it to 0, and we solve. And the math spits out a clear, beautiful, unambiguous answer: 212 coffees. This isn't a guess, it's not a gut feeling. It's the precise point where our profit is maximized. If we sell 211, we're leaving money on the table. If we sell 213, we're actually losing a little bit on that last cup. 212 is the peak. That is the incredible power of optimization.
So far, we've been using a microscope, zeroing in on the rate of change and finding that one perfect point. But businesses don't just operate in a single instant. We have to look at performance over weeks, months, quarters. This means we need to pull out the telescope, and that brings us to our fourth section, seeing the grand total using integration.
Integration is just the beautiful, perfect inverse of differentiation. If differentiation is about slicing a curve into infinite tiny points to find the slope at one point, integration is about adding up an infinite number of tiny little rectangular slices under that curve to find the total area. It's the process of putting all the little pieces back together to see the whole.
So here's the business application, plain and simple. Differentiation tells you your rate, how fast things are changing. Integration gives you the total accumulation, how much you've got at the end of the day. If you have a function for your marginal profit, you can integrate it to find out your total profit for the entire month. It's how you go from a single snapshot to the whole photo album.
You know, maybe the easiest and best analogy to lock this in is to think about a car. Differentiation is your speedometer. It tells you your exact speed right now. Integration is your odometer. It tells you the total distance you've traveled on your whole trip. One is the rate, the other is the grand total. They're just two sides of the same incredible coin.
And with that, we've arrived at our final section. It's time to put it all together. We've looked at all the individual tools in the box. Now, let's assemble the complete toolkit that you're going to walk away with.
This slide right here, this is your cheat sheet. This is the synthesis of our entire conversation. We've got 4 mathematical tools, and they each answer a critical business question. Differentiation asks, how fast are things changing right now? Marginal analysis asks, should we make just one more? Optimization asks, what's the absolute best we can possibly do? And integration asks, okay, when all is said and done, what was our grand total? They all fit together to give you complete control. Look, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that these aren't just 4 random topics from a textbook. They are a single, cohesive story, a narrative that allows you to understand your business with incredible precision, from the tiny, immediate decision of selling one more coffee all the way up to that 30,000-foot view of your total quarterly performance. And that brings us right back to where we started. Business math is not a hurdle, it's not an obstacle. It's a powerful toolkit for making better, smarter, more profitable decisions. That toolkit is now yours, so the only question left is, what business problem are you going to solve first?